All right. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, maybe wherever you're from. Welcome to Northwestern Stream Honor Info Session. I am going to go ahead and kick us off, but we are going to go ahead and cover everything about Northwestern today. And just to introduce myself, my name is Jackie Marthouse. I'm an Assistant Director of Undergraduate Admissions here at Northwestern, and I'm also an alum. So I graduated with a communications degree, and I recently graduated with my master's in marketing. So I'm a double wildcat, really love the cats clearly. And I'm really excited today to get to tell you a little bit more about Northwestern, but I am not presenting alone today. So I'd love for my co-host to go ahead and introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Milena, and I'm a current senior at Northwestern, graduating on Friday, which is very exciting. I'm originally from Minneapolis, Minnesota, but I'm currently in Evanston. I am a psychology major with minors in Spanish and business institutions. And outside of the classroom at Northwestern, I've been really involved with NUCHR, or Northwestern University Community for Human Rights, which is a student group that puts on the largest student-led human rights conference in the country every year.
Awesome. Thanks, Milana. So today we're going to go ahead and cover a little bit, like I said, about Northwestern. But first, I just want to go ahead and address kind of how we might all be feeling right now. I know there's a lot going on in the world. I know that the COVID-19 pandemic continues to be a part of our lives, as well as the continued racial injustice protests we're seeing across the country. So I want you to know that I and Northwestern are aware, we're behind you, and the way our admissions office will support you is kind of best seen in our blogs. So our director of admission was able to post a blog about how we are going to look at your applications and admissions in general after the COVID-19 pandemic and during it, and also what's going on in the midst of all this unrest around racial injustice. So I just want you to know that at the end of the day, we're here for you. We support you. We support all students. And we really want you to know that even in this process, it'll continue to be holistic for us, and we are still here for you in any way that you need it. Additionally, if you're interested in how Northwestern specifically is going to address COVID-19 in the upcoming school year, and for staff and faculty, we do have a COVID-19 website that really details and outlines everything that the university is doing during this time. So I think it's really nice to kind of go over it and see what your potential college choice will be doing. So with that, now that I've covered that, we're going to go ahead and take you through what Northwestern has to offer through academics, the culture and community here on campus, and then I'll go through the admissions process and financial aid. Then you are welcome to ask us questions. So that's our plan. And so I want to start off by maybe, if you guys aren't already, dropping in the chat where you're from. We might have a couple of you from Florida. I know the Miami area had a sign up for sessions, and they advertised it to you. And I am actually the Florida representative. So if you're from Florida, give an extra wave. But regardless of where you're coming from today, welcome. It looks like you're from all over, which is exciting. And I want you to say that's very similar to what you'll see on campus in general. So at Northwestern, we have 8,000 undergraduates, and they're coming from all 50 states and over 95 different countries. So truly from across the world. And I think that's really exciting, because that means not only are you getting all these different people from across the world, all this geographical diversity, but you're also seeing people from different racial, ethnic, religious, and academic interest backgrounds. A lot of diversity across the board. And that means that you're going to see new perspectives, new voices, not only in your classrooms, but your residence halls and your extracurriculars. And it really, I think, adds to your college experience, because that means you're going to learn from people who think differently than you, and it's going to well round out your education moving forward. And so that usually starts in the classroom, right? Your education. So I want to start off our time by talking through our academic offerings. At Northwestern, we have 6 undergraduate schools, but before I step into that, I want you to even understand how college is going to work. So at Northwestern, you're going to be taking classes in your major. That's your main course of study. But you'll also take classes that are required, your required coursework, and you'll take electives. Your elective classes are going to be anything you want. So maybe you just really wanted to try a guitar class, or maybe you love writing, but you're not going to be an English major. You can just take one of those classes. But even your required coursework at Northwestern will be your choice. So that's something a little bit more unique, is that our entire academic system is based on what you want it to be. You're choosing your major, you're choosing your elective classes, and you will choose your required coursework. So when you are looking at how that might work, I'll give you an example of our College of Arts and Sciences. They do something called distribution requirements. Now, all 6 of our schools have different ways they handle their requirements, but essentially what they are buckets or areas of study, and you apply 2 courses each to those themes. Distribution requirements are like fine arts, ethics and values, very kind of vague sounding, and that's on purpose because you're picking from a whole list of classes to fulfill that requirement. So again, you're choosing your required course. It's not just the set list of 10 classes, you're done, that's it. You're choosing from a whole comprehensive list to cover each bucket. And so I think that's really exciting, and it gets to the heart of what Northwestern academics are, which is a flexible, choose your own adventure kind of journey. And so in the beginning, I mentioned we have 6 undergraduate schools, and one of those is that College of Arts and Sciences. But just to name the others, we have the School of Engineering, the School of Music, the School of Communication, the School of Journalism, and and then that College of Arts and Sciences. So that's the 6 schools. No, I missed School of Education, Social Policy, of course. And so as you can tell, 6 schools, it's like, whoo, how do I get through them all? But I really want to note that even though I didn't remember the School of Education, Social Policy at first, it is our smallest school, but the one with the most heart. And so we have those 6 schools on campus, and just like it sounds, they're not actually different buildings or different places you go into. It's actually just as flexible as those required elective major classes. You can take classes between the 6 schools, you can hop around, you can switch between the 6 schools. They're all very intersectional. There really aren't boundaries between our 6 schools. And so that's my like bird's eye broad view of it, right? But Milana's actually in it, so maybe she can talk more about how you actually go ahead and navigate that.
Yeah, like Jackie was saying, it's so easy to take classes outside of your major or outside of your home school entirely. A lot of my classes have been within Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences because psychology is in Weinberg, so is Spanish, and so is business. So my senior spring quarter, I was really trying to step outside my comfort zone a little bit and take a class in a different school. So I was deciding between 3 classes, the first of which was Intro to Guitar in Beanon, the second, Public Speaking in the School of Communication, and the third, Swing Dancing for Engineers in the McCormick School of Engineering. So that was a really cool way for me to kind of explore what else Northwestern has to offer. I mean, myself having a major and 2 minors within Weinberg had a little less wiggle room in my schedule, but I have some friends who have made it a point to take 1 class in every single undergraduate school. And there are classes in each that you don't have to have prerequisites to take. Northwestern just really kind of wants you to explore all the options. But the thought of taking classes outside of your major or outside of your homeschool might not really resonate with a lot of you because obviously you're not in college yet. Some of you might know exactly what you want to study coming into school, which is great. My freshman year roommate, Christine, was editor-in-chief of her high school newspaper. She worked at multiple publications in her hometown, and so you could guess she came to Northwestern to study journalism in Medill. Since being at Northwestern, Christine has been involved in tons of publications, from writing articles to filming video to editing sound bites. And she's had opportunities to complete internships in South Africa and New York. And she's going to go on to apply to fellowships for after graduation. But some of you, like myself, may not have any idea what you want to study coming into college. And that's also great. Over half of our incoming class every year applies as that kind of undecided major within a certain school. So we like to say it's one of our most popular majors at Northwestern. I came in myself an undecided leaning history major. Then I thought I wanted to do anthropology. I briefly considered making my Spanish minor into a major. Then I thought I wanted to do sociology for a bit. I finally landed on psychology. And just recently, at the end of my junior year, I decided to do that business minor. that may sound a little bit stressful, but it really wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be because of the help and support from my Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences academic advisor, Brady Clark. At Northwestern, you have access to so many advisors. It's kind of daunting, and I honestly don't know all of my advisors because I have so many. So I'm really close with my Weinberg advisor, Brady. He's been my advisor since freshman year and kind of has helped me through everything from picking classes to figuring out study abroad to internships, professional search. He's great. But I also have so many advisors in the psychology department, in the Spanish department, in the business institutions department, and also advisors specifically for different things like grad school applications, study abroad, professional services, you name it, there's an adult somewhere affiliated with Northwestern who can help you out. But on top of faculty, on top of advisors, we do have some really great professors here, all of which who are really interested in creating relationships with students. A professor I like to talk about is my Law and Society professor, Laura Beth. My Law and Society class was kind of on the bigger side. It was about 150 students, so it was that larger lecture, but Laura Beth made it a point to have a special office hours every week that took place at an Evanston restaurant. She would buy us all appetizers, and her one condition was that we didn't talk about the class at all. She had separate office hours to talk about homework and tests and things like that. But during these special office hours, she really wanted to know what we were interested in as students and what we thought about current events happening in the world. Laura Beth is a great example of a professor who's genuinely interested in getting to know students. But I think one of the perks of Northwestern being on the quarter system is that we have exposure to more professors just because we take more classes. So Jackie, do you want to kind of outline what the quarter system is?
Sure, yes. So I don't know who on here has maybe heard of the quarter system before, but that is our academic system that we actually run on at Northwestern. So you might have heard of semester systems, maybe your high school does trimesters, maybe they do quarters, but I do want to just highlight how ours might be a little bit different than that. So if you take the entire year, January through December, and divide it into 4, 3 of those quarters will be your academic term. The 4th quarter is your summer. So we're actually just about to hop into our summer quarter, which is exciting. This is graduation week. As I mentioned earlier, I earned my master's. Milena's probably graduating this Friday virtually as well. But it's something to keep in mind that the quarter system is happening constantly throughout the year. It's just 3 terms that you're actually taking classes. That 4th quarter, you can do what you want. So a lot of students will go work or get an internship. They might do some research over the summer. They might just go home, take some time off. And a couple of our students might also take some summer classes. And so on the quarter system, like Milena said, one of the key benefits is that you get exposed to a lot more professors, and that's because you do end up taking more classes. On a semester system, you take about 5 classes a semester. If you look at that over a year, 2 semesters, 5 classes, 10 classes total. On a quarter system, you take about 4 classes a quarter. So if there's 3 academic quarters and 4 classes a quarter, that is 12 classes in a year. And so over 4 years, you're looking at least 8 additional classes on that quarter system. And so our students love it because it means more classes, more opportunities. It also means you don't have to sacrifice if you're interested in more than one thing. So our students are able to add maybe another major or minor or certificate if they want to. They're also able to use that time just to explore what they're interested in. But I do want to highlight that at Northwestern, we do have nearly 200 major, minors, and certificates across our 6 schools. So those are all different avenues you can take to explore what you're interested in on an academic level. Our majors are what you'll see at most of our peer institutions. Our minors are across the 6 schools and of varying similarity. But I want to highlight what certificates even are, because you might not have even heard of those at the college level before. So certificates at Northwestern are actually just really specific, almost niche kind of coursework and assembly of coursework. And they're usually a bit more practical and hands-on. So a lot of the times you'll pursue a major or minor that's a little bit more academic, a little bit more theoretical. A certificate's definitely more in that practical space. So I'm thinking that I earned a certificate in marketing as an undergraduate. It was a lot more about how to work with a client, how to start a marketing campaign. And I learned from people in the field who literally had just come from the field. So I had professors who had spent 20 years in marketing taking the time now to teach us. I had a professor who was the CEO of his own marketing consulting firm, and previously he worked as the VP of marketing at Coca-Cola. Like, how cool is that to be interacting with someone like that on campus as a part of your coursework? And so that's just one example certificate. We have several across the 6 schools, and they're usually only 5 classes to complete. So they're really not difficult to add on. And it is a really great supplement to something you might already be studying to get some hands-on experience. But maybe you want to get hands-on experience beyond the classroom. And that's totally a possibility at Northwestern as well. We have innovation and research centers all across campus. So if you're interested in being forward-thinking, entrepreneurial, you love Shark Tank, I don't know, this is the spot for you, those innovation centers across campus, because we have so many and in so many different disciplines. We have spaces like the Night Lab. The Night Lab is a cross collaboration between the disciplines of engineering and journalism. So taking kind of 2 very different subjects and pushing them together. You do not have to be an engineer to join the Night Lab. You don't have to be a journalist to join the Night Lab. If you're interested in how data and technology and storytelling intersects, you can come join the Night Lab and learn how to code, learn how to use virtual reality or augmented reality in everyday life. It's just that space for you to learn more about it and push things forward in new and exciting ways. Another space I like to highlight during this on the other end is a space called the Chemistry of Life Processes Institute. It's actually a research center. But before we dig into that, I want to just let you know that the heart of the Chemistry of Life Processes Institute here on campus is this concept of innovation. So in their mission statement, they literally say they want to innovate the next field of science. They're looking to create the next discipline. They want you to be forward thinking, even within research. And I think that's really exciting. So all across campus, you have these opportunities to be entrepreneurial or forward thinking. But I've also mentioned research now too, right? And so research is another piece of your time here if you want it to be. And I'm going to go ahead and let Milena elaborate on that part.
Research, it's crazy easy to get involved with research on campus. It could be something as simple as reaching out to a professor who you know does some really cool research and you want to get involved, or even just apply to a lab for a professor that you've never met before. Some students will do research on campus, like my friend Bella, who researches the mental health outcomes of Mexican-American youth in the Chicagoland area. Or you might want to do research at one of Northwestern's institutes downtown, like the Feinberg School of Medicine, where my roommates do their research. Whatever type of research you want to do, if it's something a professor's already doing, if it's something you want to spearhead yourself, you can really make it happen. My roommate, Sophie, she started her research on post-traumatic stress disorder her first quarter at Northwestern, when she didn't really know anything about neuroscience at all or even research. But her time at her post-traumatic stress disorder lab has been so influential to her time at Northwestern that Sophie's actually graduating as a neuroscience major and going to keep pursuing a PhD in neuroscience at the Feinberg School of Medicine in the fall. So Sophie's a really good example of someone who really delved into research and had it kind of shape her opportunity. Her research was primarily in the Chicagoland area, but a lot of students will actually go abroad to do things like research, internships, and study abroad, which is a great transition into talking about study abroad, one of my favorite things to talk about, because I actually was able to study abroad twice, once the summer after my freshman year in Barcelona, and again the fall of my junior year in Madrid. Those were great experiences, I think partially because, like I mentioned before, having advisors in the study abroad office to be able to talk you through different programs. Another really important thing that I like to highlight about Northwestern Study Abroad is that your financial aid travels with you. Without having that, I wouldn't have been able to have the opportunities that I had. And the financial aid office works really closely with the study abroad office, which is always great to see. My programs that I went on were more of what you would consider kind of the traditional study abroad programs, which were great for me. Some programs on campus, academic programs, actually require that you have an international experience. So a lot of students will study abroad through schools like Medill, the School of Journalism. My friend Colin has had a couple more abroad experiences than most people have had. He's gone to Panama, Japan, and Argentina twice, all through programs put on by Medill. But when Colin was in Argentina the first time, he wasn't just studying abroad, he also was completing an internship abroad. About 70% of Northwestern undergraduates report having at least one internship by the time they graduate. And for some students, like those in Medill, the School of Journalism, and CESP, the School of Education and Social Policy, actually require that you complete an internship or practicum experience during a quarter as your time as an undergrad. Those programs are great, and Northwestern really does help kind of cultivate those relationships with different organizations for students who are pursuing that professional option as part of their academic career. But Northwestern also has a lot of great resources for people who are pursuing professional opportunities completely separate from what they're studying. Northwestern Center for Career Advancement is a great example of a resource on campus that helps a lot of students in their career searches. I've used NCA to find internships, to talk about resume and cover letters, to apply for grants, even to get advice on what I should be wearing to an interview somewhere. But I found my internship, like I said, through NCA, which has great resources for finding things. But a lot of students also find internships through the Alumni Network. And Jackie, you're a current alum, but I'll be joining you in a week, but I'll let you talk about the Alumni Network.
Yes, absolutely. And so as Milena said, she's joining us in a week, right, to be a part of this alum network. But I'd like to think that your journey with it started when you stepped on campus. And so when you're a Northwestern student, you are automatically welcomed into the arms of the Alumni Association. They're here for you from day one. They want to connect you with current alum because that's a way that you'll jumpstart your career potentially after undergraduate. So that is something to keep in mind when you're looking at universities. How will I engage with my alum, and how will that maybe help my career later on? I think it's also exciting just to note some of our alum are a little bit more prominent than others, and you might have heard of them or seen them. So if you watch late night TV, there's Stephen Colbert and Seth Meyers. If you are interested in the tech world or just women who are boss and CEOs, we've got Ginny Rometty. She's CEO of IBM. Or maybe you just enjoy, fantasy. So we've got George R.R. Martin, who wrote Game of Thrones. So he's another very prominent alum. Amongst all our other alum, we are working day in and day out doing exciting things that you might not actually hear their names all the time. And so I think it's important to note that because of that, our alums span across the world, they span across every industry, and that's something that you can really tap into, again, as you're looking to build your career, but also just to build connections throughout the world. I can tell you from experience, every alum I've talked to has been so excited that I'm from Northwestern. They're so supportive. They want to hear like your favorite memory, and then they also want to give you their business card and maybe touch base later about different opportunities. So our alum are always giving back. They're always a part of the community, and it's something that I think is at Northwestern is a really strong component of who we are. But now that Milena and I have kind of taken you through everything that is academic and how literally you would make it to graduation, there's a part that I think we need to also cover, which is just what this community is going to be like. And so, Milena, maybe your wise senior wisdom can come through on this about what it was like and what you felt like our community really is.
Yes, definitely. This is my favorite part of the presentation because I love to talk about the culture and community of Northwestern specifically. But before I delve into that, I always take a second to acknowledge the situation that y'all are in right now. I mean, being a senior and being able to look back at my experience has been great and come away with the knowledge that college is so much more than academics. And so I really encourage all of you to look beyond just, the majors you might want to pursue or what internship opportunities there are out there for you. And I think that while we're in this crazy time of a pandemic and like a revolution about social justice, it provides a really unique opportunity for all of you who are applying during this process. I think I would encourage you all to, whatever school you're looking at, see how they're engaging with their students in the community about coronavirus, see how they're entering into the conversations about race, look at their social media, look at social media from students, and really take the time. Although you can't physically be here on campus, you can still get a sneak peek of what the community and culture is like. So Northwestern students, once you're admitted and excited to get here, you actually start your journey in the Northwestern community by being placed into a peer advisor group or PA group. PA groups are part of our week-long Wildcat Welcome orientation program, and they're made up of 15 students, all from within the same homeschool and paired with a peer advisor who is in their second, third, or fourth year at Northwestern. PAs lead students through everything from registering for classes to doing those kind of awkward icebreakers that actually work in their awkwardness. And I found my PA group to be a really great resource, and that's where I met a lot of my really close friends. I also met a lot of really cool people through living in a dorm on campus. I'm not going to talk too much about that. I know that we have resources on our YouTube channel that kind of cover what housing is like. But students also find kind of their home on campus through the non-physical spaces, like affinity spaces. We have great communities in places like the Multicultural Center, the Black House, Shield Catholic Center, Hillel, the Center for Jewish Life on campus. And students really enjoy those as an opportunity to engage with other people who may have similar upbringings as them, similar beliefs, and those are great places for them. Students also find their quote unquote homes in student organizations. At Northwestern, we have over 500 student organizations. We have the things that maybe first come to mind, like sports, intramural club, a cappella groups, theater productions, but we also have the not so conventional groups like the Happiness Club. I know there's an origami group on campus. I read that they're starting a theme park design group, so that might be interesting for those of you who end up coming to Northwestern, if that sounds cool to you. But even though there are so many groups on campus for you to join, you might not find one that really clicks with you, which is okay because you can just start your own. My friend Peter, a mechanical engineer, came to Northwestern looking for a space in which he could learn and practice ukulele. But there wasn't already a ukulele club on campus, which I was kind of surprised by. But he petitioned to start the ukulele club our first quarter at Northwestern. And by winter quarter that year, it was up and running. Peter became known as the ukulele guy all over campus, and now Ukulele Club is huge. They have annual bonfires out on the Lakeville. It's a really fun group. And a lot of students will actually join pre-existing groups to combine both their hobbies and their professional interests, like my friend Jacob. Jacob is head of finance for Mayfest, which is a student group that puts on the largest student-run music fest in the country every year. The music fest is called Dilla Day, and every spring, well, not this past spring, unfortunately, but students will go out to the Lakeville and see artists perform on multiple stages, get food from local food trucks. Last year, they brought out a Ferris wheel, which was kind of crazy. But Dilla Day is so important to Northwestern culture that our president, Morty, will shut down the libraries a few hours early, encouraging everyone to engage in festivities. And I think, like I was saying before, with coronavirus presenting new insight and opportunity, Mayfest was actually able to do a digital Dillo Day. So they had, people performing. I think a unique opportunity that came of it being digital was that artists were able to do Q&A sessions with students, and it went over very well. And it's just one of those examples of how the culture and community of Northwestern transcends, not actually being in the physical space of campus. Mayfest and Ukulele Club are groups that are specific to Northwestern, but we also have chapters of international and national organizations like Campus Kitchens. Campus Kitchens is a group that collects food from dining halls, the extra food at the end of the day. We'll package it and redistribute it to low-income Evanston residents. Service groups like Campus Kitchens are just one of the many ways that Northwestern students interact with our greater Evanston and Chicago areas. So Jackie, do you want to talk more about where we're physically based?
Yep, absolutely. So Northwestern's campus is literally in Evanston, Illinois, and it's just outside of Chicago. So I'm sure many of you know Northwestern to be associated with Chicago in some capacity, but we're literally in the suburb of Evanston, which is actually right along Lake Michigan. So it's a beautiful campus, a mile long, half a mile wide. When we all get a chance to come back to campus, I'd encourage you to check it out. But in the meantime, just to kind of give you a sense of what that'll mean for you is, since you're in the town of Evanston, you have connections to a whole community right there. This town of Evanston offers events all the time, free food. You get a discount with your student ID at a lot of places, and it has a ton of coffee shops for you to study in. There's a Target, so you can get all kind of your essential shopping done. And it's just a great space for you to kind of get beyond campus and hang out. But additionally, we're also right by Chicago, right? So Chicago's a huge city, but our city limit is literally 3 miles from campus. So it's pretty close. When you think of Chicago, typically you probably think of that downtown area. So where the skyscrapers are, Michigan Ave, the Bean, and that is pretty close to us. It's about 13 miles in. And so our students actually get there by shuttle usually. And we do have a free shuttle, or there's the L, which is the public transit system here at Northwestern and in the city of Chicago. The L is a train. You can take that to that 3-mile mark, and then it'll span everywhere into the city and get you all across. So our students do engage with Chicago a lot. They're able to go ahead and go for concerts or internships or classwork. And so our students definitely engaged with our community of Evanston, the community of Chicago, and then you also have campus itself at the end of the day to kind of be back on. And so that is going to cover what we have to say about Northwestern. I just want to go ahead and transition and talk about the admissions process and financial aid before we take Q&A. So I see that some of you started dropping questions. Please feel free to do that. And I will go through the admissions process next. So when you're looking to apply to Northwestern, there's one thing I want you to remember, especially in context of everything that's going on, something that will continue to stress for you, is that we review applications holistically at Northwestern. That means we look at every single piece of your application and we care about every single piece. We want to know your entire story. We want to know not only your academics, but also what your essays are saying and what your recommenders are saying about you, and then also what you're involved in. So those pieces are going to be that academic section, that activity section, that recommendation section, and those essays. That's all coming together. And we consider context. We consider where you're from. We consider what's going on, especially now. So I just want to stress that again, that that's going to be a part of your application. This moment in time is a part of your application. It's something we're all going through, and it's something that will maybe be reflected in your grades or your activities, and that's okay. If you want to write about it in your essay, that's okay. Use that space to tell your story, and this is part of your story. And so when you're looking to apply, I'm just going to go through each piece that I just went over, but also remind you that this is all online. So you apply to Northwestern through the Common application or the Coalition application. They're both one-stop shops for applying to college, and we don't have a preference. So go ahead and pick one of those and fill out each of the sections that I just went over. When we're looking at your application, starting with academics, we're looking at your transcripts and your test scores. Your transcript is coming from your high school. So if you are applying from a school, they'll usually just send the transcript over. You don't really have to do a lot with it. What we'll do is we'll look at what kind of classes you're taking and how you performed in those courses. So if you're taking challenging coursework, that's a plus. I would encourage you to do that. If your school doesn't necessarily offer what you would traditionally think of as challenging coursework, that's something that I don't want you to be worried about. Some schools don't offer AP classes, for example, or some schools don't offer IB programs, or some schools don't even offer honors classes. I just want you to challenge yourself within the context of your school. So just keep that in mind, that it's just about what was offered and how you took advantage of that. Again, there might be issues this year. Maybe you weren't able to place in a new class next year because of COVID-19, and that's okay, okay? Your school will also be able to know if anything happened during this time on the Common App or the Coalition app. So rest assured, we're doing everything we can to learn all about the context around your academics. As far as test scores go, we're looking at the ACT or SAT. At the moment, we're still requiring the test scores. And so we will continue to monitor this and be as flexible as we can, depending on what happens with future test dates, future testing centers, all of that. I just want to remind you that your test scores are just one piece of your application. So while they are important, they're not going to be the be all end all. So what I like to say, and what I've heard maybe other schools even say, is that test scores matter more than you probably want them to, but matter less than you think they do. So just to keep that in mind, that they're important, but they're not, again, everything, because we're also looking at everything else. So we've also got your activity section, which is highlighting what are you involved in? What are you doing in high school? Do you volunteer? Are you part of a club? Are you part of a sport? Every piece is important. Highlight it. Whatever you're spending your time beyond the classroom is something we want to learn about. The other sections I mentioned were recommendation letters. Those are coming from a core subject teacher and a counselor. That's all we require. If you want to add more, go ahead, but you do not have to. And I want to stress that it's really about quality over quantity here. There really isn't a perfect number, and there really isn't something that you need to just keep adding it to either. It's something that you want to be considerate of my time and your teacher's time. And make sure that these letters are adding to your application, not just saying the same thing over and over, or not really giving new information. And then finally, there are essays. So the essays, there's one on the application itself. That essay is going to every school you're applying to. It's usually just picking one of 6 prompts. My advice there is just to answer it genuinely, and also answer it in the way that makes sense for you, while also remembering to make sure you're checking grammar, spelling, and you still have a point to the essay. I don't really care if it's straightforward or comedic or funny, whatever, blunt, whatever. Just make sure it matches the prompt and it says a main point. The other essay is the one that's on our supplemental piece. So once you fill out this entire application, there will be a supplement, and that's where you're going to indicate which school you're applying to at Northwestern and which major. Undecided is perfectly fine. So just to stress that again, you can be undecided coming in, but you do have to pick a school. And then there will also be an additional essay asking why Northwestern? Why are you interested in us? What about Northwestern stands out to you? So when you're filling out that piece, make sure you're maybe reviewing one of these sessions. Maybe you look at the website. Maybe you got a piece of material in the mail. Maybe you were able to visit before everything, and you can draw on that. There are so many things that you can draw on right now, I think, especially on our YouTube channel, to help you craft that essay and make it really personal to you. That's the point of it. We just want to hear why you specifically are interested in us. And I want to make sure that it should be specific. It shouldn't be an essay that you can easily put any school's name into that essay. And so with that, the only other topic I want to cover is financial aid. So financial aid is typically separate from the admissions process. For our domestic students, we are need blind. And for our international students, we are need aware. That means that if you're international and are requesting financial aid, it will be a factor in your admissions process. But regardless of which bucket you fall into, domestic, international, we promise to meet 100% of your demonstrated need. And so that's kind of where the difference lies. Because we are need aware for international students, that means we do get to cover 100% of the students who come here if they need financial aid. The way we calculate your financial aid is typically through the FAFSA and the CSS profile. Those 2 forms you're going to fill out, and they're going to give us a number in which your family can contribute to your education. We will take our total cost of attendance minus that family contribution to be your financial aid package. It's 100% of the difference, and that financial aid package will have no loans. We are 100% loan free. So we do make that commitment every year to meet 100% of that demonstrated need, and we make it without any loans to make this as accessible as possible for every student interested in Northwestern. If you want to get a sense of what your financial aid might look like, we do have a calculator online. Our financial aid website has some good facts and figures, but there's also just something called a net calculator that every university will have if they offer federal aid. And so I encourage you to check it out for every school you're looking at. Unfortunately and fortunately, it will vary. So this is something that you should factor in as you're looking at colleges and trying to make that decision if you're looking at that financial aid piece of it as well. And so with that, I want to then kind of transition to our Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead and I guess start with, is there any program to connect students to internships? So I can maybe speak on like what I know offhand, but Milena, if you have specific experience, that would be great. But as far as kind of programs to connect students to internships, I think there's several. And we covered it a little bit about how different schools have programs, or some schools actually build in internships, like the School of Journalism and our School of Education and Social Policy. It's required to graduate to do an internship, so they help you find them. But we also have the Northwestern Career Advancement on campus, like Milana had talked about earlier. And so if you are interested in talking to an advisor, you can do that right away. We also do career fairs and college fairs on campus. Sorry, college fairs. I do college fairs. Career fairs on campus. So they bring in employers who are interested in hiring students for internships to talk to you like a college fair, where you go around to different booths and talk to them. So Milena, did you want to kind of expand maybe on any experiences you or your friends had?
Yeah, a great program also kind of in line with taking an internship to graduate is the Chicago Field Studies program. A lot of schools at like the undergraduate schools at Northwestern don't require that you have that internship experience, but with Chicago Field Studies, there is an opportunity to get school credit from doing an internship. So you apply to Chicago Field Studies, they help match you with an internship, typically in Chicago, and you can take that internship and kind of mold it to how you want it to fit into your credits. So some students will take it as a 1 credit class and be there at the physical internship for less time during the week and take 3 other classes on campus. Some students will put everything into their Chicago Field Studies internship for a quarter and have that be their one experience for which they get 4 credits. So that's a really cool way that students are able to engage with internships and kind of have it count for credit. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Thanks. Another question we got is, what is campus culture like? Is it friendly, intense? Is there a spirit of collaboration? I think right off the bat, you hit it with spirit of collaboration. Friendly is also obviously a given, but I think the one thing that's not there is this idea that it's super intense or cutthroat. Our students are ambitious for sure. They're excited to do what they want to do. They are pushing ahead in their different fields of study or their different interests, but they are not pushing each other down to do that. They're definitely being there to engage with each other, also support each other at different events. And it's not a space to feel like you have to compete with every person on campus and you won't have any friends at all. Milena, I want to ask you this question though. We had a student kind of ask about business majors and opportunities in business. So given kind of your background in it, do you want to expand on what it was like to do that?
Yeah, of course. So Northwestern undergraduate doesn't actually have a business major because Northwestern Kellogg, which is the graduate business school here, their philosophy is kind of that they don't want you to study the business of business. They want you to study the business of something that you're interested in. So learning about business around a frame of something else, And so a lot of undergraduates who are interested in going into business, you kind of see people all across the board for majors and things. A lot of people will do an econ major and do my minor, which is business institutions. Business institutions is a really great minor because you take classes on marketing, accounting, corporate finance, and also leadership. But you also take classes about writing and speaking in a business context, and you get to kind of fill it in with classes that are more of interest to you. So Jackie was talking before about that distribution requirement, kind of choosing amongst a long list of classes that is most interested in you to fill a certain requirement. It's similar with the business minor. So I took that law and society class as part of my business minor, and I was also able to take Spanish for professions, which was really cool. So there's that business minor opportunity. We also have certificates through Kellogg, which are a really great resource for students, but you see most students who are interested in going into business doing the BIP minor.
Great, thank you, Milena. So the next question we have is, can you describe the people/community at Northwestern in 3 words and why? Like, what would they be and why? So I guess I'll think on the spot for this. Typically what I say first off is collaborative. And I know I said that earlier, and so I know I've already expanded on it a little bit, but just given the nature of how academics work at Northwestern, how student groups work, even who you're meeting on a day-to-day basis, it's just so natural to be collaborative. You're not just going to engage with engineering students if you're an engineer, and you won't just be with music students if you're a music student. You're going to engage with everybody and work on different projects in some capacity during your 4 years across the schools, and therefore across your peers. So collaboration. I also think engaged. Our students are always involved in something or excited about something, or just ready to take the next step in whatever it is that they're doing. It was pretty rare for me to meet a student who couldn't instantly tell me like their passion. And so I was always excited to hear what they were pursuing and why they were pursuing it. And it's something that goes throughout the community. And then finally, I guess I would also say, the word that came to mind was curious. I tend to use that more when I talk about what we're looking for in students. But I think it works here as well. These students, they're collaborating with each other, they're engaged in their pursuits, but they're curious In the sense of academics, they want to continue to learn. In the sense of their careers, they want to figure out their next steps. And also in the sense of their ambition, they're always looking kind of for the next space to pursue or figure out what they're interested in. So those are my 3 words. Milena, do you want to say yours?
Yeah, I would agree. I think as you kept going by, they were kind of ticking the ones that I was going to say. The only one that I would add to this, and I know that this is a buzzword and I hate using buzzwords, but hang in there, would be diverse. So, I mean, I know everyone talks about how diverse the student body is in terms of identity, race, background, socioeconomic status. But when I think about diversity at Northwestern, I think about kind of internal diversity. I mean, Jackie, you were talking about how students are really curious, but internally, students are so well-rounded and multifaceted on so many different levels that I think like in all of our heads, we're kind of all over the place. But, you see athletes who are really interested in pursuing music and also the intersection of technology and the human brain. You see people, majoring in math, but also starring in a theater production. And you also see people who one day will go to the library, stay there and get all their work done. And then the next will go to a tailgate and go to a football game. It's just people at Northwestern are really trying to do it all and like kind of able to do it all. And I think that's the most inspiring thing that I've seen being a student here is everyone's kind of lifting each other up. And while you're seeing all these people doing amazing things, they're also supporting you to pursue what you're wanting to do. So I would say that you hit the nail on the head with your words.
Thank you. I do really like the diverse add-on. I know it's a big buzzword, but I think the way you explained it is definitely true to the community. So we have a couple more questions. How do Northwestern students get involved in the surrounding community, like the greater Evanston and Chicago area? Melina, since you're about to graduate, you want to maybe highlight some of your favorite memories or some things you did?
Yeah, so I guess right off the bat, thinking about how I've gotten involved with the Evanston community is one of my work study jobs for where I worked freshman and sophomore year was actually tutoring elementary school students in Evanston. So that's one of my favorite things that I've done at Northwestern, being able to get involved with the greater community and work with, second, third, and fourth graders on their math problems and kind of have a sneak peek into what it's like to live in Evanston as not a college student. I think with Chicago in general, having the elevated train here is so convenient to go into Chicago to catch a Cubs game, or we have passes for the Art Institute of Chicago, the Museum of Modern Art. Those are great resources. And one of my favorite things to do is just kind of take the L and get off at, a random stop and kind of find a restaurant because food is my main motivator. So it's kind of fun to go in and explore everything that Chicago has to offer because there is so much here.
Awesome. Yes. Okay, so then we have, is the binding nature of early decision withdrawn if the financial aid given is insufficient? So I want to touch on this and kind of go back to that admissions financial aid piece. I don't think I actually mentioned our literal deadlines, so I'll just go ahead and highlight those really quickly. We have 2 rounds, early decision and regular decision. Early decision is binding, as the question notes. And so that means if you apply an early decision and are accepted, you will be enrolling. Now, the one kind of way to not fulfill that contract is with that financial aid piece. So if for some reason financial aid isn't sufficient during early decision, you would appeal it, and then we will do everything in our power to make it work, match it, whatever we need to do. Typically, this only happens when your financial situation just cannot be reflected for some reason in the FAFSA and the CSS profile. And so that's the only instance that it really does happen. Something maybe difficult happens to your family, something new happens, but otherwise, we rarely kind of see that happen just because our financial aid policy is so robust and so interested in covering everything that you need. Again, so since we have early decision, that will actually be due November 1st. So that's when you would apply, and you would have to make sure you fill out those financial aid forms, and you'll find out by December 15th if you are admitted, and you'll also usually get your financial aid package that week to evaluate and make that final decision or appeal if you need to. Again, it's pretty rare, Typically our financial aid packages cover what they need to initially, and you can go ahead and do that calculator and ask financial aid questions at any time during this process, just so you can make sure that you're making the best decision moving forward. Now, the other round is regular decision. And again, since that's not binding, this wouldn't really be a factor. You'd make that financial aid decision as you went with the other schools, but that's due January 2nd. So those are our 2 rounds. That's all that we offer. And again, financial aid is the same across them, and there's an appeal process in both. I just want to highlight that with early decision, that is kind of the only one of the reasons you would be released from the binding decision. And so back to other questions. Oh, Milena, we have a question. How was your transition from high school to Northwestern? Like, what are some of the best resources or people you went to help for?
That's a really, really good question. I am an older sibling, so I think transitioning to college was kind of stressful for me because I didn't really have that, older sibling to look up to who had done it before, gone through the motions. But like I was talking about with Wildcat Welcome and PA groups, that really helped me. My PA, Michaela, she was great. She was a junior when I was coming into Northwestern, and we still keep in contact today. Being able to have someone kind of walk you through the motions, not having that fear of asking those questions that you might think are dumb questions to ask, but you really just want to know. I think one of the main concerns that I had coming to Northwestern from my high school, where not many people from my high school go to Northwestern, so I was kind of coming in a bit blind, was that I wasn't going to be able to keep up with everyone here. I know in my high school, as a lot of you I'm sure are, I was close to the top of my class, doing really well in my classes, doing like 8,000 extracurriculars. And so coming to Northwestern, I was really intimidated by the people that I might meet here. And I just want to remind all of you, like, it's stressful and it's frustrating, but there's a reason that you are looking at schools like Northwestern. There's a reason that you get admitted. Awesome. That you get admitted and, you can do it. And that's something that I was really stressed about transitioning into college. The last thing I'll touch on about the transition to college is, I know, having talked to a lot of prospective students, a big thing of concern is the quarter system. Students are really worried about having extra classes, having more midterms and finals. And I just would really encourage you to look at it with an open mind. I mean, I love the quarter system. I would not have done it differently had I had the chance to start all over. And college academics really are an entirely different ballgame than high school. So it's daunting, it's intimidating, but you can do it, and don't sell yourself short is what I'll say.
That's great. I think that's an excellent space to kind of land on. Listen to what Milena just said. Like, in this process, at the end of the day, this isn't a reflection of your self-worth. It's a reflection of what schools want, and you're going to end up where you belong, and you will be at the right space to make that next step. So I am excited for all of you as you're looking through your college process. If you have more questions, feel free to email us. Check out our blog. Also check out our channel. We mentioned a lot of different facets of Northwestern that we've actually done some deep dives on the channel. I know in the chat we highlighted, we did things on entrepreneurship. We've done a video on internships. We've done videos on pretty much a variety of great topics. And so I just want you to remember that we do have the resources, even virtually, for you to learn more. Check out our tour. Make sure to hit subscribe. Hit the bell notification so you know when these videos are popping up. And we're always looking for new ideas or new things you want to cover. So let us know that too. So I just want to say thank you to Milena for being here today. Thank you to all of you. And I hope you have a great evening, morning, day, whatever it is, whatever time zone you're in, and a great week as well. So thank you.